People are afraid of labels in psychiatry, right? And people don't want to label their child as being anxious. Oh, my child has an anxiety problem. But anxiety is normal. We all feel anxiety. Anxiety is normal, and that's part of the solution, is teaching your children, and as a therapist, to teach your kids, hey, it's okay to be scared. That's part of growing up, and getting over it is what makes you stronger and better, right? There are two things that I look at when I know it's a problem. Number one, if it's affecting their learning, their ability to learn. Number two, if it's affecting their social growth. If those two things are happening, you need to intervene. And the first thing that you can do to intervene is psychotherapy. We know for sure that cognitive behavioral therapy works great in kids because it teaches coping strategies and it teaches them how to deal with the anxiety so they're not so afraid of being afraid.
So here's what I'm thinking. So there's sort of two schools of thought right now as a parent of elementary school, middle school aged kids. One is that we coddle our kids too much, right? Like we're trying to buffer them from all of the world, and that's not healthy for them. And then the other side is that the world is so competitive and so fast-paced that they're all becoming anxious too. So how do you do a good job as a parent in helping them navigate that?
The golden question, and being a dad of 3 kids and a child psychiatrist, I deal with this every day too, and it is incredibly hard. You're right. There's an old saying in child psychiatry, being a good enough parent, right? If you're too overbearing, you're going to create more anxiety and less resilience. If you're neglectful, obviously there's bad things about but being a good enough parent, being loving and supporting and communicative with your kids, that's where you got to start. And that's the foundation, right?
This is such an interesting topic. One author is doing her part to tackle childhood anxiety by talking about it in her graphic novels. We have author Raina Telgemeier joining us via Skype. I've got a copy of your book here called Guts. Tell us the inspiration behind this book.
I started having panic attacks when I was 9 years old, and I developed a fear of vomit, which is a emetophobia, and it really did hold me back for very many years. And I stopped wanting to go to school. I stopped eating food because I was afraid that food was going to make me sick. And so I have been making autobiographical comics for the last dozen years or so. And I decided it was time to really talk about this thing that's so much at my core and is such a big part of my childhood.
Well, Raina, I think what's so fun is that I was flipping through your book before the segment, and I think what's so lovely about it is the illustrations and the graphic aspect, because at that age you don't necessarily have the vocabulary to describe anxiety, but the pictures illustrate it so kids can relate to it and feel not so isolated. They can feel that it's normal and they're not alone.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about graphic novels is they are able to show as well as tell. And the pictures can do as much talking as the words can. And they work together to really, synergize an experience and to put the reader into the shoes of the main character. So I tried to show what a panic attack feels like, and that's not easy to do. But because I'm using comics, I have pictures, words, sound effects, and lines and colors and scale and things like just a simple page turn. Those are all tools that I have in my toolbox that help me describe what it's like. So I use visual metaphors like falling through a tiled floor into a pit and standing on a spider web and how that's just like a really delicate feeling. And I showed what my fear scale looks like. And the colors descend from sort of a happy blue all the way to black. And in the last of the 10 panels, I show myself just being swallowed by a tidal wave. For myself as an artist, I writing this book was a way for me to really learn how to talk about it and how to show it to my readers. And I have to say it was a cathartic experience to do so.
And we know you have a lot of fans out there, kids who love reading these types of books. I'm curious, as a childhood adolescent psychiatrist, what do you think about tools like this?
You know what I love about that is when kids come to me with an anxiety problem or a mood disorder, they feel alone. They feel like they are the only person in the world that is experiencing this. When a child can read and look and relate to a book, they feel less stigmatized and they feel normal. And that's part of what's going to make them feel better.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it doesn't matter where this segment started. By the end of it, I now know I have guts.
Yes.
Raina, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant work.